guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about investing versus paying off debt. And when I say investing, I specifically mean investing your money for retirement savings. Now, if you're new here and you're not familiar with our story, hi, my name is Lo, and my husband and I are working on paying off over $300,000 of student loan debt. Now, at the beginning of 2020, we had a car loan, we had multiple credit cards, and we had our student loan debt. Throughout this year, we've paid off the car loan, we've paid off all the credit card debt, and we are starting to attack our student loan debt. And if you watched last week's video, then you know that we recently refinanced our student loans for the second time to lower interest rate, and now our interest rate on our student loans is just above 3%. It's about 3.3% for each of our loans. My husband's loan has a balance of just above $100,000 and mine is just above $200,000, and so we've definitely got a long way to go, but we are finally at a place where we've got a really, really low interest rate on our student loans, and all of our other high interest debt like credit cards and stuff has been paid off. Now, throughout the debt payoff process, my husband and I have constantly been discussing what our focus should be, whether all our money should be going to debt payoff, whether some of it should be going to retirement, whether we should pay the minimums on our debt and put everything towards retirement, you know, how to balance those different financial goals. And so we've been back and forth about this, you know, throughout the months, trying to figure out what's the best way to maximize our money, but also maximize our happiness. And so today I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of focusing on paying off debt versus investing, and so we can kind of talk through it, and I'd love to hear your guys' opinion in the comments below as to what we should do now that we have paid off all of our high interest debt. Okay, so first of all, a pro to focusing on debt payoff rather than saving for retirement is there is a risk to having a debt payment. If you have a debt payment and you have a financial setback and you can't afford that payment, the company's still going to expect the payment. Whereas if you're just throwing money at retirement and you can't afford it one month, then you just don't contribute that month towards your retirement savings. So there is a risk associated with having debt. And so paying off debt before really focusing on retirement gives you the opportunity to have a little bit more breathing room in your budget if you have a setback to not make that payment that month. Whereas if you have the debt, then you know it's more of a risk because you can't just tell the company, I'm not paying you this month, unless they're willing to work with you for some reason. You know, you're kind of stuck. The second pro to focusing on paying off debt, for me at least, is the emotional relief. Money decisions are not just a math problem. There's a huge emotional component to how we spend and treat our money. And so, you know, for me, there's a lot of stress and negativity associated with carrying this debt. So paying it off faster and getting it out of our lives would provide a huge amount of emotional relief, and so would bring a lot of value to our lives in that way. The third pro to paying off debt is that it is a guaranteed rate of return. You know what your interest rate is that you're paying on your debt, and regardless of what the stock market does that month, whether it goes up or whether it goes down, you know you are getting that certain rate of return on your money. It's whatever the interest rate on your debt is. Whereas if you took that money and you invested it in the stock market, it could go up, but also it could go down, and so it's kind of an unknown. So if you want more certainty in, you know, where your money is going and the value you're getting back from that payment that month, if you put it towards your debt, you know you're going to get that rate of return, which in our case is about 3.3%. Okay, so those are a bunch of reasons why it is better to focus on paying off debt versus investing. Now let's talk about why it's better to invest rather than paying off debt. Now, first of all, the historical interest rate on the stock market is much higher than the rate of return we are getting from our interest rate on our student loan debt. Our student loan debt has about a 3% interest rate, and the historical stock market rate of return, depends who you ask, but it's somewhere between maybe 8 and 10%, 10% being on the higher end. Maybe some people would say conservatively 7, but somewhere in that range, at least double our interest rate on our student loan debt. So if you were just looking at the numbers and just playing the odds based on the historical performance of the stock market, if we put our money into retirement accounts that were invested in the stock market, then the rate of return would likely be at least double what we would save in interest on our student loans. So if we are not being emotional with our decisions and we're okay carrying the student loan debt and we're okay with that risk, then over time, at the end of our lives, it's likely we would end up with a higher net worth if we focused on putting more money towards retirement versus trying to pay off our student loan debt really fast. I've been reading a lot of books lately on personal finance, and one of the books I read recently is The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. And in here, he does have a section on debt at the beginning. And what he says is that if your interest rate is less than 3% on debt, then you should pay it off slowly and put your money towards investments instead. If your interest rate is between 3 and 5%, that do whatever feels most comfortable. And if your interest rate is more than 5%, then pay it off ASAP. So this is just one person's opinion. Our interest rate technically falls in the do what feels most comfortable range for him because it's between 3 and 5%, but it's really just about 3%. So I'm guessing if I talked to him, he would say, no, you guys should really be focusing on retirement and slow pay your debts more. But again, this is just one person's opinion, and so I thought I would just mention that to you guys. It is a good book. I would recommend it if you want to check it out. Okay, another pro to focusing on retirement payments versus paying off debt is it is harder to catch up on lost time with contributing to retirement. And what I mean by that is everything I've read says that the longer you are investing for retirement, the less you will have to put towards retirement over time. So let me give you an example. Let's say you started saving for retirement at age 25 and you put aside $400 a month every single month until you were 65 years old. That's 40 years of saving for retirement. And let's just assume you're getting about an 8% return on your money. That may end up being higher or lower, but let's just say, you know, average out to an 8% return on your money. When you retire, you would have $1,246,288. Now let's say that you didn't start doing that until you were age 35 instead of 25. And so you only contributed to retirement for 30 years instead of 40 years. That same $400 invested with an average return of 8% would give you less than half of that. It would be $545,064. Now let's say you really wanted to retire with $1.2 million, and so you wanted to know, okay, I'm 35, how much more do I need to put in to catch up and get to that $1.2 million by the time I retire? Instead of that $400 that you would have had to put in as a 25-year-old, starting at 35, you would have to put in $900 every single month to catch up and end up with over $1.2 million at retirement age. So as you can see, when it comes to retirement, having time on your side is really important. Now for us, my husband and I are 33 and we're gonna be 34 in just a few months here. And we have not done what we could have potentially done, which is start saving for retirement in our 20s. We did start saving in our 30s, but it has been a very small amount over time. And so, you know, with this in mind, knowing that having more time on your side really helps you out, we are considering putting more money towards retirement rather than paying off debt because we see the benefit of having these extra years on our side. Because while the numbers look worse at 35 than they do at 25, if we wait till 40 or 45 to start saving seriously for retirement, like every year that we wait, we lose time on allowing our money to grow. And the reason why time is so important when it comes to investment is because of compounding interest. And what that means is that the money you invest grows, and then that money stays in the account, and then you earn interest on your initial deposit plus the growth, and that gives you more money, and that you leave in there, and then you're earning interest on that amount. So as you can see, the graph just goes like this. Even though you're contributing consistent amount over time, your growth looks like this, because as your account grows, you're earning interest on that money that's earning interest and interest and interest. And it's just building on top of itself to earn you more and more and more money. Okay, the third benefit to investing for retirement versus paying off debt is focusing on building wealth is kind of more positive than thinking about debt all the time. I find it really emotionally draining to always be focusing on our debt rather than focusing on building wealth. Now, either way, whether we're paying off debt or putting money towards retirement, either one is helping increase our overall net worth. But debt is kind of a negative thing that causes stress and anxiety, and so if you're focusing all of your energy and attention on your debt payoff, it does get emotionally draining. Whereas I think if you had your debts, you know, you were paying the minimums, it was an on auto payment, and you didn't really have to think about it that much. You just knew on this date it would be gone, and if you want to throw extra at it, fine, but it's just kind of doing its thing, and you're focusing on putting all your money in investments, then you know, that's more of a positive thing. Now, the stock market does fluctuate, and so you might put a bunch of money into, you know, a retirement account, and then the stock market tanks and you lose money. So it's not always stress-free to be investing, but overall, I would say, you know, stock market does go up over time, and that's historically proven over the past 100 years. And so it's more of like a positive thing to be focusing on building wealth rather than just be focusing on paying off your debts. And the fourth pro to investing for retirement versus paying off debt is there are tax benefits for investing for retirement. You know, if your job has a 401k, you can put pre-tax money into the 401k. There's other retirement accounts like an IRA or a Roth IRA, which have other benefits where your money can grow tax-free, and a traditional IRA, you can, you know, put money in pre-tax as well. And it all depends on your situation, what you're eligible to contribute to. And I'm not an expert in all this, but these accounts do exist. And a lot of times you can find some tax savings by contributing to retirement. And certainly at least your money can grow tax-free. And so there are some really, really big tax benefits to saving for retirement, and you're not going to see those same benefits typically when you're paying off debt. And so, you know, you have to take those into account if you really want to run all the numbers to see what's the better decision long term. Okay, so what are we gonna do at this point now that all of our high interest debt is paid off and we are kind of behind on retirement, which I'm going to talk about in one of my upcoming videos, how much we have saved for retirement and all that. But, you know, we are kind of deciding. We're at a crossroads here because for a long time I was so focused on just getting all our debt paid off really, really fast because we had a lot of high interest debt. And now that we are down to just low interest debt, there is a lot to pay off, but we also are considering, should we be putting some or more money towards retirement? So if you guys have an opinion on that, comment below and let me know what you think. We are finalizing our plan for 2021, so I will be sharing with you soon what we end up deciding, but I'd love your guys' input. If there's anything else that we, you know, aren't considering about this, a pro or a con of paying off debt or investing, then I'd really like to know your thoughts. If you like the video, please smash that like button. It really helps out my channel. And if you want to see more videos like this, then hit the subscribe button. I'd love to have you as a subscriber, and I'll see you guys soon in my next video. Bye.